Hi, my name is Lainey Diskin, and I will be your counselor this evening. What is your name, and what would you like to talk about tonight?
So my name is Jessica, and I want to talk about my past substance abuse issues. I'm having some trouble, morally accepting some of the places that it took me to and some of the things that I did.
Mhm. Would you like to go into detail about your past and what those struggles that you're having are causing you?
Yeah, so I was an IV drug user for years, and it led to homelessness, it led to prostitution, it led to my entire family wanted nothing to do with me. Um, and today it kind of it's almost like this sense of loneliness, like these people that were supposed to love me and support me no matter what, like they weren't there for me. And it's leading to problems in personal relationships today. Like I never feel like I'm enough. I feel unlovable. I feel like I'm just not good enough.
And why do you think that is, that you feel you're not good enough, you're not enough in the relationship to be worthy of love? All the people in your life when you were in active addiction, why do you think that they weren't there for you to support you and get you the help you truly needed?
So I know logically they weren't there because they had tried to help over and over and over again. Like it's not like they didn't try, right? I didn't want the help. I didn't accept the help. It was like it was a big game for me. I know why, but it doesn't stop me from feeling like I've experienced it in the past, right? And like I can't trust anybody moving forward, because if these people that were supposed to love me no matter what weren't capable of loving me no matter what, then how are the people that have no obligation to love me going to love me?
And how does that make you feel, that fear that you still carry with you about people not trust, like having no trust towards people, and having the fear that people are going to judge you and that you're not good enough for people?
I genuinely don't know how it makes me feel, because most of the time I don't feel a lot of anything. Like it's just, I'm just kind of there. It's like being a zombie. I don't I don't get excited about much. I don't get upset about much. I'm just kind of there. And maybe that's not true. Like I can definitely pinpoint instances where I've gotten super excited because I'm going to go shopping, or I'm going to do this thing or that thing or whatever. And I can definitely point out instances where, I cry myself to sleep at night. But I think for the most part, I'm just kind of like somewhere in the middle, and I don't feel too much of anything towards anything. I know I can see the consequences of it though. I can see that I pull away from people. I can see that I put walls up. I can see that I don't like letting people get close to me. I don't like letting people see the real me. I tend to wear masks or like personas of what I think I should be or who I think I should be.
And by masks, what do you mean that you wear masks? Can you go into detail of that?
So you mean like what different personas do I put out there?
Yeah, like what do you mean in terms of you wear masks? Are you hiding who you want to be? Is that what you're trying to get at? That you're hiding who you are for people?
I'm trying to make myself the person that I think the other person wants me to be. Like I'm not, and a lot of the times it's I just don't feel like I'm good enough. So if I act in this way or if I say this thing, that I'll be more likable, that I'll be more acceptable.
And that is very true. A lot of people in active addiction and recovery, a lot of people, when they get sober, they feel really tight in their own skin. They don't know how to act. They don't know how to really feel. They feel like they're on edge 24/7. They don't know what to do with their self. They don't know how to be in silence and be content with their self. They don't know what to do with themselves. And a lot of people can overcome that, but a lot of people can't.
Hmm. And yeah, sitting in silence, like that sounds like me exactly. Like I hate sitting in silence. I've always got to be doing something,
Mhm.
right? And it's like when I was doing coke a lot. Like I always had to be on to the next thing, and I had a purpose, I had goals, I had ambitions.
Mhm.
Like I've got to keep myself busy. I can't sit still. I've got to keep moving. I've got to
Mhm.
and my mind races from one thing to the next, and it's like there's no coherent thought process there. Like I'll literally go from thinking about, I don't know, the way that I want to rearrange my bedroom to all the new furniture that I'm going to buy for it to, I want this house and that. Like there just isn't a completely clear, coherent thought pattern there. But
Mhm.
it's like I've just got to keep going and going and going, and I can't sit still. My mind can't sit still because it's extremely uncomfortable when I do.
Mhm. And I totally understand that because there's a part of your brain when you start any substance that it triggers it. There's a little spark that goes off that wants more, and then you're fixated on it. And then when you suddenly take that away, it doesn't know how to act. It's doesn't know what to do. Your body doesn't know how to respond, and then you're all scattered, and you try to put that into other things by organizing stuff and by putting that energy into something else, and then a lot of chaos happens. You see a lot of destruction happens where a lot of people get really angry and frustrated. A lot of mood changes, goes from being happy 1 second to being totally drastic, like angry, throwing things at walls, crying for no reason. And you see that a lot when people are coming off of opioids, when people are coming off of any kind of hard drug, whether it's even cigarettes. A lot of people have that too.
And it's so funny that you bring that up because I just redid a room in my house, and it was like the only way I could describe it was chaos. Like there was chaos around me, and it was really like it was getting into my soul, and it was deeply bothering me, and it was causing fights between my spouse and I,
Mhm.
and there was just a whole lot of tension. It was like walking around on eggshells for like a solid week, and it was just, yeah, fits of extreme happiness and then rage and then crying, and then like my emotions were so up and down and all over the place, and it just felt like total chaos all around me.
Yeah, it's like I call it the chaos of a roller coaster because you never know what's going to happen on a roller coaster. You never know if it's going to be stable because they don't look very stable. So you never know if it's going to be a good thing or a bad thing. You don't know what's going to happen. Anything can happen in those situations.
Yeah, it's and there's a lot of fear around that for me. Like I like to think that I like to try to think that things will just work out and everything will be okay. But there's this like underlying need to control the situation, to manipulate the situation, so it comes out favorably to me.
Mhm. Why do you think that is? That you like to be the one in control and power? Why do you think that is?
Because I don't trust anybody else. If I leave it up to somebody else, they're looking out for their best interest, not mine.
Is there fear, do you think, behind that? Of being alone, being abandoned?
I have a huge fear of abandonment. Like it's huge. It's literally, and it goes back to like what I was talking about with putting up those walls,
Mhm,
right? Like if nobody can get in and if nobody gets to know the real me and if nobody can
mhm.
see me, then I can't be hurt,
That's
right?
true.
Or it won't hurt as much when they leave because I'm so unattached. I have a
Mhm,
lot of problems in my life building real relationships, whether that be with a partner or with a friend. I forgot about my anniversary. My anniversary is Thursday. My spouse is currently
mhm,
really upset with me because I scheduled a bunch of stuff on Thursday, not even realizing it was our anniversary, right? Like I just separate myself so much from it because it's not going to hurt if this thing doesn't work out for me. And this is a pretty long-term relationship. Like we've been together 6 years and I still have this thought that he's going to leave, that I'm not what he wants, that he's going to find better, that there's somebody more suitable, more proper, more analytical, smarter, prettier.
mhm. And that thought has runs through anybody's mind, whether you have addictions, mental health, anything. Being in a long relationship with anybody at any point in a relationship will get the idea of, am I good enough for them? Why are they with me? What is the big picture? Like, what is going on? Like, why are they attracted to me? Is this going to work out in the future? Where are we going with this? Like, are we moving to getting married? Are we going to have kids? Like, what's going to happen? And a lot of people struggle with that through life, where they don't feel like with their partner that they're good enough for them. And they keep asking them, like, why are you with me? And it causes a lot of problems.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, major depressive disorder, and generalized anxiety. And it's like, I almost feel like that borderline diagnosis gives me an excuse to act out and to pull away
Mhm.
and to consistently not show up and to forget anniversaries and
Mhm.
like he is 100% the one that shows up every time, that's always taking care of me and made sure that I'm happy and I'm well. And it's like I just don't do the same things. Like he
Mhm.
buys me flowers all the time. He shows up with chocolate bars because why not? And I don't think I've ever done anything like that for him. And it's like I get the thought, I get the idea, and then somewhere along the line it starts looking like a bad idea because what if I get open myself up too much?
Yeah, but what happens if you open up yourself too much? What's the harm in doing that? Is there anything that's going to happen? Like, are you going to get hurt if you open yourself too much to your fiance? Are you going to get, what's the end result that you think's going to happen if you open yourself up too much to him?
Not in the short term. Like in the moment he'll be happy for that thing, and but long term, like if this thing doesn't work out, and that's the other thing, I've always got this contingency plan. Like if this doesn't work, I'm going to be okay because I'm not that attached anyways.
Mhm.
And I know I'm lying to myself in saying that, but being able to say that makes me feel a lot better emotionally. Like I feel more secure. I feel um and it's kind of crazy saying it out loud. Like I'm filling my own head with stuff that I know is lies for this perception of a safety net.
And why do you think you do that? Why do you think you fill your head with those personas?
Because I'm so deathly afraid that he's going to leave me. Last February, he went to Florida without me. I have some criminal charges that don't allow me to travel to the US. So he went up there with his parents and he was gone a week, and no, 2 weeks. And it was like the end of the world. I mean, like, I was so distraught, like, I'm going into work yelling at managers, telling them I'm not doing anything because I'm not capable right then and there. I'm like, it was literally like the end of the world to me. Like, this guy, and I know he's coming back, like, he's got a plane ticket to come back. It wasn't a one-way ticket. He's coming. I'm like, this is his house. These are his kids. Like, he's not leaving, but it felt so much like he was leaving that I spent days doing nothing but crying.
And when you were in that state, did you ever turn to drugs? Did you ever like break anything when you were you in fight and flight mode? Were you in the fight mode, like you thought everything was ending? You thought that he was leaving you and not coming back? Like, what did that feeling drive? By yelling at your manager, what was that the result of? Like, what was the end result in that? And all the behaviors that you did when he was gone?
What was the end result in it?
Mhm.
He came back, and everything was fine and it was okay. Like, I can logically, it drives me nuts because I can logically see this stuff, but like, it doesn't stop me from feeling it.
Mhm.
Right? Like, I know I'm being crazy, for lack of a better term. Like, I know that logically this doesn't make sense, and I know logically he's coming back, and I know logically
Mhm.
him going to Florida doesn't change our relationship. But like, when I'm in that thing, when I'm feeling that thing, it feels so real.
It does feel real because you're in a state where you don't know, because you have those charges and you're not allowed to go. You feel that you're helpless, that you have like basically like shackles on and you can't go. You have this void, this wall that's holding you back from being with your partner. And that fear that he might be finding somebody there or having more fun without you, all those fears creep up and they're not expecting. You never expected them to happen. And it's very overwhelming when they creep up on you out of the blue.
And it's so funny that you say that because I never even considered like the fear that he's having more fun without me. And that's like probably 100% at the root right there, what it is. Like, this fear that he's, and that manifests, right? When I look at that in a bigger sense, like, he's having more fun without me because I'm not as interesting as what he thought I was when we first got together, right? He's not happy in this monotonous thing that we're doing, renovating the house and feeding the kids, and yeah, like, monotonous, right? Same
Mhm.
thing day in and day out, kind of. And it's probably 100% that it goes back to like that feeling of inadequacy, that I'm not good enough, that there's somebody better out there, there's somebody prettier, somebody thinner, somebody smarter.
Yeah, and when you go through that, your brain goes crazy. It stops you from sleeping. It basically stops you from living when you get into that mode where you're in the driver's seat and you're just flooring it by saying like, why is he doing this? Why did he go there? I'm not pretty enough. And every time you feed that fuel, the car is going faster and faster. And you're not knowing where you're going. You're not knowing where you're going to, where the destination is with all this going on in your head. And with that going on and running and fueling that um, emotion, you're not doing well in your mental health. You're not being the best self that you can be.
I've also been really struggling lately with, like, I was diagnosed with borderline. Well, I was diagnosed with bipolar at 14. And I told the psychiatrist that I was seeing that I didn't think that diagnosis was right. So she told me basically like go get a second opinion. Then there was no referral or anything. So it was probably a good few years before I went back. And at 18, I was diagnosed with borderline. And I just feel like some of the symptoms, like I'm definitely impulsive. I definitely have that fear of abandonment, but like some of it I have moments where I dissociate, but like some of it I don't relate to anymore. I don't feel like it fits since I got sober. But I have a lot of fear about going to be re-diagnosed or re-examined. Like if this isn't, if I don't have this thing, like one, this has been like something that I've used to characterize myself for, 10 years now. Like this thing has been at the core of who I am, and every discussion I have about who I am and what I am. And like I have this huge fear of losing that crutch, of losing the ability to say, hey, I was I was like in this place of predisposition to addiction, right? Like, because at the end of the day, that means I'm kind of a shitty person who's made a bunch of shitty decisions and a bunch of shitty choices, right? Like I don't have that scapegoat anymore if I'm not borderline.
That's true. But the fear that even if you don't have your diagnosis isn't that when you get diagnosed. Because a lot of times when you're in active addiction, a lot of times when you're diagnosed by the psychologist or the doctor at the time, the actions and behaviors can appear as though they are a mental health condition. The behaviors of like moods going from being happy 1 second to being drastic throwing rage. So you might not be bipolar. You might not have borderline personality disorder. I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't have that ability to tell you or to treat you. But the fear that's like driving that behind you is that you need to basically the fear of it getting it re-examined is that it's scary to put yourself out there because you've been idolizing and identifying with these conditions for most of your life and your adulthood. And the fear that you're going to lose those labels, that they're just going to get shredded through the shredder is like life changing since you've been identifying with it for a big chunk of your life.
And it's so funny because I had so much resentment towards that diagnosis at first. Like it was like a death sentence. And now the idea of giving up that diagnosis feels like just as much of a death sentence as getting it in the first place. Like this changes everything. Like I don't even know who I am, and these impulsive things that I do, I can actually control, and like it opens this whole window for change and possibility. But and that may sound like a good thing, but like change and possibility are terrifying. That's scary.
It is scary because when you think about it, change, we live in a society where, this pandemic is very unpredictable, where we live in a society where change, anything can happen any day. It can, like tomorrow you could have a job. The next day you won't have a job. So change is scary for anybody in any lifetime.
Yeah, it makes me like really, really uncomfortable. It gives me some anxiety. Like, and I think it's the idea of not knowing who I am. Right. Like, and I'm very familiar with going through that in like, who am I without this drug? Who am I without my drink?
Mhm.
I'm like so familiar with that, but I can't get over this hurdle that who am I without that diagnosis?
Mhm.
Like what does that make me? What does that say about me?
Mhm.
And it's again that fear that I have not lived up to my morals and I have no good reason as to why anymore. Like I
Mhm.
have no predisposition to that addiction in the first place. That was just a bad choice that I made, right? It wasn't because I have this thing. It was because I chose to.
Mhm.
And having to admit that to myself, having to admit that to others, like it seems like chaos. It seems like I truly am unlovable. Like everything that my parents made me feel about myself through the way they were able to just pull away and stop loving me in the way that I felt I needed. Like it gives that some depth and some weight, and it makes that seem true, that it makes it seem that much more realistic.
Mhm. And it can be jarring and painful to see, to look back and to see all that pain and to see everybody and the fear that, like, are those people going to accept me? Are future relationships going to accept me? And how to mend those relationships that have treated you bad and how to get on the right path again, which is really tricky sometimes because not many people understand how to. And the change, understanding and adapting, and understanding that and having them understand that you have a disease that you're not accountable for, that it's not your fault, and having them understand that is really difficult for many individuals.
Mhm. So is there anything that you can suggest to help me kind of cope, to help me come to terms with it, to help me, or is it just going to be a learning process?
There are some steps that you can take to understand it. I would say keeping a journal of to understand your triggers, like your day to day, throughout the day, just keep a journal and understand. It will help you understand your triggers and understand the changes that occur throughout your day that maybe trigger you to certain behaviors. And maybe learning, like, instead of doing the same schedule, like you wake up, you make the coffee, and then you start your day, maybe switching it every other day so that your brain doesn't have the same routine, so that change comes more natural in a sense to you.
That actually makes a lot of sense. I've been doing a lot of work recently, just kind of personally around um, like pride. Like pride is a huge thing for me,
Mhm.
and trying to find ways to practice being more humble. And I'm kind of seeing that as I practice being humble more and more, it comes more naturally to me. So it's exactly like putting little changes into my life makes
Mhm.
those changes not so scary and not so drastic.
Mhm.
That makes total sense. Thank you.
No problem. Exactly. The little things, if you put those to action first, then the big hurdles are come way more easier. Because if you challenge yourself to the big ones, then that's not going to lead you to success. That's not going to lead you to, like, being able to conquer what you need to at the time. And that's not what we're here to do. We're not here to set you up for failure. We're here to help you understand how to conquer the changes in your life. We're here to help you with anything that
Mhm.
understanding changes, understanding how to recover in sobriety better, how to take the triggers and put them into something better.
Mhm. Yeah, so something else that I've been kind of doing lately just to try and force myself into doing these things that I don't want to do is making lists. So I'll list like 4 things that I want to do in the day and then 1 thing that I don't want to do, and make sure I get all of it done throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there's any merit to that, or would it be better to just set a day aside and get, all these appointments that I don't want to booked? Or
I think that does have some merit by setting things that you need to do. And then I would always say maybe make it 1 or 2 goals that you don't really want to do. Like start with 1 thing that you don't want to do, but then add more. Like say you do it for 1 full week and then you've managed to make it happen every day. Then like add 1 more. So then you're doing 2 more things that you didn't want to do to begin with. It makes you nervous. You have a lot of tension in it. And then by doing that, you're changing your attitude. You're changing your atmosphere about it. You're adding more growth in your person. You're adding more elements to your life, enabling you to be able to have change and broaden your horizon better in your life.
do you think that there is merit behind me continuing with like addictions counseling even though I'm in recovery? Or is that more specialized to people that are like newly in recovery or still actively addicted?
No, I think you would get benefits being recovered because they would give you some tools and tips to help you with understanding changes in your life with jobs that come up, how the day suddenly changes and or you're asked to do a different task that you're not normally being able to do, and they would help you with triggers. I think that you would have beautiful benefits if you saw an addiction counselor. It's not just for people that are just getting out of active addiction. It's for anybody who's in the program. Like if you've been in the program for 10 years, you would still get benefits from seeing an addictions counselor.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
No problem. Is there anything else you would like to talk about or discuss?
Not today, I don't think so.
Okay, well, then we can close the meeting. It was lovely chatting with you today, and I am glad that we got to touch base. And if there's nothing else, we can conclude this session. And I hope you have a safe and happy evening.
You too. Thank you, Lainey.
You're welcome. Bye.